Science is knowledge, what you should have to get somewhere. And normally everybody has some such knowledge in school, in the public education. But you know, in the recent decades, the science level, especially the real science, the hard science, getting much more wider and far from the general level of understanding. And also the level of public education globally declined, especially in the science field, because science is easy to understand in the school if there are a lot of experiments. But in many schools and in many countries, they don't have enough time to make experiments, and also the consequences, the people are finishing their school with not real enough level of science. Then after, where the people can get science, as well not in the grocery store, from the media. And you know, now the media is based on the clickbait. And when I am listening the science news, who producing the science news in the media? The ideal thing is if a science journalist, because the journalists are also specializing. But now, again globally, to having science journalists in the staff of a media is a luxury. Only the globally leading media has really science journalists in their staff. There are countries in Europe which had before in the big daily papers a lot of science journalists. Now they don't have any. Even in Scandinavia, where the largest GDP expenditure going to science and technology, that is the case. And not talking about the smaller, even Central Eastern European countries. So the consequence is the level of science news coming from the media is sometimes very hard to understand and superficial and not easy. So they are, okay, pick-pack, that is science. The general people will not understand. And now the new phenomenon is social media, which can give availability for everyone, but also the misinformation. We knew very well what happened during the COVID-19. So, and in generally, trust in science is normally has a very complex thing. And if there are two major pillars is weak, the general understanding of science and also the information tool as a media, the people can fall very easily in such traps which can be very easily found in the social media, but in many countries where the political system makes that traps. The less democratic countries has a lot of problems with the science, the credibility of the science also. In the COVID system, the name of expert and the expertise discredited in a way in many countries, especially in the less democratic countries. I tell you an example from my country, from Hungary, you know, where, for example, the most prestigious research institute's network was taken away from the Hungarian Academy of Science, is now under government network. And also the Central European University was pulled out from Hungary, and now it is based in Vienna. So there are things which are not always very good for the science, for the trust in science, because I think in general the trust in science has many factors. For example, the reliability of scientific knowledge and the integrity of science methods and the credibility of scientific institutions. And also, that is what I mentioned, if the credibility is broken, there can be also broken the trust in science and the expertise of scientists. And what I told you, the expertise discredited in many ways, because also political parties use these people, that people as an expert. And if the political players discredited, also the experts were discredited. And in this chaos, a general person who has a weak pillar of scientific knowledge, what can they say? What is the trust in science? And also the other factor is the communication of science, what I am doing, what I mentioned, what is the situation. So, and I always believe in the last factor, because that is a natural thing, the application and impact of science, which everybody we could rely that, okay, you know what is the medicine, what is the technology in your budget, in your gadget, that is also a scientific thing, yes, but the medication and the medical field also after the COVID, it's very weak, so there are quite strong believers of anti-vaccine movements, and this is also, so I think for me the trust in science is a very important, but I see the weakness of this situation. You know, that's again back to the democratic process. We're living in a very diverse world, and yes, I left a country where there are like tatsepos of different parties before the European election. And if you are listening the news and the speeches, there are everything, not science. So that means that even the political players doesn't think it is important to make a rally with some scientific issues. And that is very, very, very sad. And this is not only in my country, but in a country where there is the case, that is a very, I think it's a very poor landscape for the future of trust in science. And even this is only a European, not only this is a European election and a community election, but even for the general election, that was the case. And I think in most of the European countries, the major topics among the major topics, you will hardly find any real scientific things. And okay, the funding is also an important question for science, and the European directives has a very key role for the scientific funding, to improve the scientific funding. But in the countries, it is not already the case. Also, the censorship and control and the role of journalism in the media. This is a very important role. It is certainly a key question, but in a country where the major media domination is in the hand of the government, then we cannot talk about really independent media. So, and educational reforms, it's also a very important factor for the future of science, the trust in science. And I think there is also a deficit in Europe for educational reforms, as I mentioned at the beginning. For example, in Hungary, the scientific educational reforms are in a very big need, but there is not the new PISA data have shown that we are in a big deep situation, and there is also one thing which can be an improvement. That is a citizen science landscape because of the social media. But we need a regulation somehow, because now in the social media much more how can I say, incorrect informations are coming according to science. One big development is a growing number of good science blogs. That's very good, but they don't reach enough people. And some experts said that maybe the artificial intelligence will make help for the regulation in the social media. I don't know, that is only a hope. That if it would be a step, that would be a big achievement. But we don't know yet, because it's also based on business.